If there was any show in the history of Hollywood that pushed the boundaries of what was possible and acceptable to the public, Married with Children is definitely that show. The writers and producers were no doubt audacious and bold in the choice of the content, themes, and drama they put out. It broke Hollywood in two, the ones who loved them for it and the ones who hated them for it. Which of the sides won? Well, a series of factors clustered together led to the sad decline and cancellation of this once great show. Controversial episodes. It's the late 80s, and television is about to witness a seismic shift in comedy. Along comes Married with Children, a sitcom that was like nothing audiences had seen before. Edgy, irreverent, and unapologetically crude, the show wasted no time in shocking viewers with its controversial content. From the very beginning, Married with Children established itself as a master of risque humor. It was a show that dared to push the boundaries of what was acceptable on primetime television. The patriarch of the Bundy family, Al, played brilliantly by Ed O'Neill, was a shoe salesman with a chip on his shoulder, and he didn't hold back his contempt for his wife, Peggy, and his two kids, Kelly and Bud. In one particularly controversial episode titled "I'll See You in Court," Al recounts a time when he and Peggy were intimate, and he mistook her for another woman. This awkward and uncomfortable situation is played for laughs, but it was far from what most people were accustomed to seeing on their TV screens. Another example of how the show produced controversies was in the 5th episode of the first season. It was called The Poker Game. And in this episode, Al and his buddies invite Peggy to join their poker game to prove women can't handle the pressure. As expected, it leads to a series of sexist jokes and digs at women, which drew criticism for reinforcing gender stereotypes. Yet again, much later in episode 22 of the 11th season, an episode called The England Show aired. In this controversial series finale, Al dreams about what life would have been like if he never married Peggy. The dream sequence features a dark and violent alternate reality, leading some viewers to find it too intense for a comedy series. These episodes were just a glimpse of the many instances where Married with Children pushed the envelope with its humor, touching on topics that were considered taboo for network television at the time. Throughout its run, the show tackled taboo subjects and explored sexual innuendos with reckless abandon. It seemed like no topic was off limits for the writers, whether it was sex, infidelity, or bodily functions. In the episode, A Shoe Room with a View, Al goes to a nudist beach with his friends, leading to a slew of hilariously scandalous scenarios that had some viewers gasping in disbelief. As the show continued to deliver its raunchy humor, it was met with a wave of both praise and condemnation. Some viewers found the no-holds-barred approach refreshing and hilarious, embracing the show's audacious take on family life. But others weren't so forgiving. Concerned parents and conservative groups were up in arms, decrying the show as inappropriate for television and unsuitable for impressionable minds. And it wasn't just viewers and critics who had strong reactions. Advertisers and sponsors often found themselves in a precarious position. The show's controversial content led to some companies backing away, unwilling to risk their reputation by being associated with such audacious humor. This led to boycotts and financial strain for the network, further fueling the controversy surrounding the show. Even the Federal Communications Commission stepped in, slapping the show with fines for its indecent content. The FCC's involvement only added fuel to the fire, with supporters of the show championing its right to free speech and creative expression, while its detractors accused it of crossing the line. Despite, or perhaps because of all the controversy, Married with Children carved out its place in television history. It challenged norms and proved that audiences were hungry for something different. It was a show that embraced its irreverent nature, leaving a lasting impact on the sitcom landscape. The show became a whirlwind of audacious humor, fierce debates, and a battle for creative freedom. Whether you loved it or loathed it, one thing's for sure: Married with Children will forever be remembered for its unapologetic approach to comedy and its willingness to push the boundaries of what was acceptable on TV. But these controversies were only the beginning. They led to a slippery slope of more flaws and loopholes in the show. Dysfunctional family theme. The show's central figure, Al Bundy, was the quintessential disgruntled shoe salesman trapped in a loveless marriage with his wife, Peggy. Their interactions were far from affectionate and instead were filled with biting sarcasm and verbal sparring. If that wasn't enough, their kids, Kelly and Bud, were no angels either, often getting into mischief and causing headaches for their parents. In episode after episode, the Bundys engaged in inappropriate behavior that would make any traditional family cringe. For instance, in Prom Queen the sequel, Al and Peggy steal the prom queen title from their daughter Kelly in a twisted quest for their lost youth. Not exactly the kind of parental role models you'd expect to find on a family sitcom, but wait, there's more. In the episode Her Cups Runneth Over, Al gets caught peeking at his neighbor's well-endowed wife, leading to a hilarious yet eyebrow-raising exploration of voyeurism. It's moments like these that had critics wagging their fingers, decrying the show for normalizing disrespectful behavior within the family unit. And let's not forget about the Bundys' utter lack of support for each other's dreams and aspirations. In Peggy Turns 300, Peggy attempts to fulfill her lifelong dream of becoming a millionaire by starting a trashy talk show. Instead of encouragement, her family mocks and belittles her, further solidifying the dysfunctional image of the Bundy household. With each episode, Married with Children seemed to relish in dismantling the traditional notions of familial love and support. While some viewers appreciated the show's audacity and dark humor, others saw it as a negative influence on impressionable minds, particularly on younger viewers who might not understand the show's satirical intent. This controversial portrayal of family dynamics extended beyond the Bundys themselves. Their interactions with neighbors and friends, like the constantly feuding Rhodes couple, further showcased a world filled with disrespect and pettiness. And yet, it was this very disregard for traditional family values that made the show a hit with its target audience, who appreciated its unapologetically irreverent take on family life. While Married with Children found a loyal fan base and its place in television history, its critics remained steadfast, arguing that the show undermined the importance of love, respect, and support within a family. It was a tug-of-war between those who believed in the power of satire and those who thought it was a dangerous precedent to set on primetime TV. In the end, Married with Children proved to be a polarizing force in the world of sitcoms. Its depiction of the Bundy family may have shattered the conventional mold, but it also left a trail of controversy and debates that would persist long after the show's end. Love it or loathe it, there's no denying that the Bundys certainly knew how to leave a lasting impression on viewers and TV history alike. But this was only the tip of the iceberg. Feminism backlash. Married with Children stirred the pot when it came to feminism. Peggy Bundy, played brilliantly by Katie Sagal, was the embodiment of the untraditional housewife. With her bouffant hair, leopard print dresses, and penchant for lounging on the couch, she was the antithesis of the typical nurturing and domesticated TV mom. And that's precisely what made her such a lightning rod for feminist criticism. Feminist groups took issue with Peggy's portrayal, seeing her as a stereotype perpetuating the image of a lazy and materialistic woman who lacked ambition. In episode after episode, Peggy's primary interests seemed to revolve around shopping and watching TV, which some feminists argued reinforced outdated gender roles. In Buck Has a Bellyache, Peggy's shopping habits lead to financial strain, and the show used this as comedic fodder, leading some to question if it was demeaning to women. But it wasn't just Peggy's love of shopping that irked feminists. It was her relationship with Al that had them up in arms. Their marriage often resembled a battleground of sarcastic jabs and put-downs, with Peggy being the sassy and indifferent spouse. In The Dance Show, Al tries to reconnect with Peggy by taking dance lessons, but instead, she dismisses his efforts and derails the whole thing. Critics argued that this portrayal of a disinterested and disrespectful wife undermined the concept of equality in a partnership. And let's not forget Peggy's relationship with her daughter Kelly. Peggy's interactions with Kelly often involved sarcastic remarks and belittling comments. In the episode Kelly Bounces Back, Peggy insults Kelly's intelligence, perpetuating the notion of mother-daughter tension. Critics claimed that these portrayals of female characters reinforced negative stereotypes of women being catty and unsupportive of each other. However, supporters of the show argued that Peggy's character was a satirical take on the traditional TV housewife, intended to poke fun at societal expectations of women. They saw Peggy as a strong woman who stood her ground and didn't conform to conventional norms, which was empowering in its own right. Married with Children was a show known for pushing boundaries, and Peggy Bundy was no exception. While some feminists saw her as a regressive portrayal of women, others celebrated her as a subversive figure who challenged the status quo. It was a heated battle of perspectives, with each side passionately defending their point of view. In the end, Peggy Bundy became an emblem of the ongoing struggle for gender equality in the world of television. Whether she was a symbol of defiance or a regressive stereotype, there's no denying that she left a lasting impact on discussions about feminism and representation in popular culture. Like all these wasn't enough, the worst was yet to come. Key cast departures, the dagger that pierced the heart of Married with Children fans, when David Faustino, who played the witty and womanizing Bud Bundy, bid adieu after season 10, and Christina Applegate, the ditzy and glamorous Kelly Bundy, took her final bow after season 11, it sent shockwaves through the sitcom's devoted following. Bud Bundy, the mischievous and slick-talking son, was a fan favorite with his quick wit and hilarious schemes. Whether he was trying to impress the ladies or pulling off one of his infamous get-rich-quick schemes, Bud's antics brought a dose of teenage charm to the show. So, when David Faustino made his exit after season 10, it felt like a punch in the gut to the show's loyal viewers. And let's not forget the vivacious and lovable Kelly Bundy, whose dim-witted but endearing personality made her the poster child for the classic dumb blonde stereotype. Her hilarious one-liners and memorable moments made her an irreplaceable part of the Bundy family dynamic. When Christina Applegate decided to depart after season 11, it was as if a bright light had gone out, leaving a void that was hard to fill. These cast departures were more than just actors moving on to new endeavors. They triggered a domino effect that impacted the entire show's vibe and dynamic. The absence of Bud and Kelly altered the dynamic between the remaining family members, Al and Peggy. With the kids gone, the central family unit felt incomplete, and the chemistry that once fueled the show's comedy seemed to fizzle. The show attempted to cope with these departures by introducing new characters, such as Seven, a young boy whom the Bundys adopted. While Seven brought a fresh and quirky element to the show, it couldn't entirely replace the void left by Bud and Kelly's absence. The changes led to mixed reactions from fans, with some embracing the new characters and others longing for the good old days when the Bundy family was intact. The departure of key cast members also signaled that Married with Children was entering a new phase, and with it came an inevitable decline. As the show's original core was disrupted, some viewers felt disconnected from the later seasons, missing the chemistry and camaraderie that had made the show a success in its heyday. Though Married with Children remained on the air for several more seasons, the absence of David Faustino and Christina Applegate left an indelible mark. It was a bittersweet reminder that all good things must come to an end. But even in its later years, the show continued to resonate with its devoted fan base, thanks to the legacy of its unforgettable cast and the hilariously dysfunctional Bundy family. But soon enough, the overreaching arch of the show began to catch up with them. Boycott from sponsors. With its risque jokes, sexual innuendos, and no-holds-barred approach to comedy, Married with Children had a knack for ruffling feathers. Some advertisers and sponsors, fearing backlash from conservative viewers and concerned parents, chose to distance themselves from the show like it was a live grenade. The controversial nature of the content was like waving a red flag in front of a bull, and these companies decided it was safer to take a step back. As a result of the boycotts, the show faced a harsh financial reality. The loss of advertising revenue dealt a blow to the production budget, making it increasingly challenging to maintain the same level of quality that viewers had come to expect. Like a ship taking on water, Married with Children struggled to stay afloat amid the financial storm caused by the departure of sponsors. Moreover, the reduced financial support meant that the show's creative freedom was also at stake. With less money in the coffers, the producers and writers had to tread carefully, fearing that certain content might scare away even more advertisers. This led to a delicate balancing act between staying true to the show's irreverent roots and avoiding the risk of sinking the ship altogether. And let's not forget the added pressure from the network. With the loss of advertisers, the network executives were breathing down the show's neck, demanding changes and trying to play the role of a censor. This tug-of-war between creative freedom and financial stability created a tense atmosphere behind the scenes, and the show's future hung in the balance. Despite these challenges, Married with Children remained resilient, refusing to back down entirely. The show's creators and cast continued to push the envelope even if it meant sailing in choppy waters. But the impact of the sponsorship boycotts was undeniable, as the show struggled to sustain its longevity in an increasingly competitive television landscape. Married with Children will be remembered not only for its groundbreaking comedy, but also for the battles it fought with advertisers and sponsors. It was a show that dared to be different, refusing to compromise its unique voice despite the financial storms that threatened to sink it, and as a result, faced the backlash of sponsors getting spooked. Was the show a daring one, or was it a little bit over the top? This next occurrence answers that question clearly. Tussle with censorship. The battle with censorship and the menacing hand of the Federal Communications Commission was a regular occurrence with the show. Married with Children was no stranger to tangoing with the regulatory authorities. As the show fearlessly dived into the world of controversial humor, it frequently found itself entangled in the web of censorship, and the FCC was quick to play referee, throwing penalty flags left and right. From the first whistle, the show's audacious content had the FCC raising its eyebrows like an overzealous school principal. The FCC's job was to ensure that television content met certain standards of decency and appropriateness for public consumption. But Married with Children wasn't one to play by the rules, often towing the line between what was deemed acceptable and what was considered too indecent or offensive for primetime television. As a result, the show faced multiple instances of censorship, with some of its more risque jokes and content falling under the FCC's microscope. In episodes like No Chicken, No Check and Nooner or Later, the show's humor tiptoed on the line of what was deemed appropriate for television. These episodes featured innuendos and suggestive content, which had the FCC wielding its mighty fines like a sword. With each slap of the FCC's fine hammer, the financial strain on the show's production and distribution became more pronounced. The fines imposed by the regulatory body were no pocket change. They were hefty blows that left the network reeling. These fines were like sucker punches that put an extra burden on an already financially challenged show. And it wasn't just the fines that took their toll. The constant dance with censorship created a stifling atmosphere on set, with the show's creators and writers having to second-guess their every move. The fear of crossing the line and incurring the FCC's wrath became a constant companion, dampening the show's bold and audacious spirit. But Married with Children wasn't one to back down easily. It kept pushing the boundaries, even if it meant inviting the FCC's gaze. For its supporters, the show's defiance against censorship was a badge of honor, a testament to its commitment to free speech and creative expression. But for others, it was a constant headache, fearing that each episode could be the one to attract the FCC's punitive gaze. Which of the sides were right? The next thing that happened was the final blow that ended the show: low rankings and ratings. The sad reality of low ratings and the heartbreaking decline of audience interest was a bitter pill to swallow for the once mighty Married with Children. As the controversies and criticisms piled up like heavy bricks, the show found itself sinking under the weight of its own audacity, and the consequences were devastating. In the early days, Married with Children soared high, riding the wave of its daring and irreverent humor. But as the seasons rolled on, the novelty began to wear thin for some viewers. The very controversies that had once fueled its popularity were now working against it, as the show's daring humor began to feel repetitive and predictable. The relentless onslaught of controversial content had created a love-hate relationship with its audience. While some remained dedicated fans, others found themselves growing tired of the show's formulaic approach to humor. The constant barrage of sexual innuendos, dysfunctional family dynamics, and crude jokes became too much for some viewers to bear. As the controversies continued to mount, the criticism from concerned parents and conservative groups added fuel to the fire. The negative publicity chipped away at the show's once solid fan base, causing some to tune out and switch channels in search of more family-friendly fare. And let's not forget the departure of key cast members, Bud and Kelly, whose exits left a void that was hard to fill. Their absence led to a shift in the show's dynamic, with the remaining characters struggling to maintain the same chemistry and charm that had once made Married with Children a hit. The decline in ratings was like a slow leak, gradually sapping the life out of the show. With each passing season, the numbers dwindled, leaving the show's creators scrambling to keep it afloat. It was a heartbreaking realization that even the most audacious humor had its limits, and the show's controversial reputation had become both a blessing and a curse. Despite attempts to introduce new characters and storylines, the damage had already been done. The show's once strong hold on the television landscape had weakened, and it found itself overshadowed by fresher and more innovative comedies. As the final seasons rolled in, it became clear that the end was near. The decline in viewership and the loss of audience interest left the show struggling to justify its continued existence. In a heartbreaking turn of events, the once mighty Married with Children bid farewell to its viewers, ending its run after an impressive 11-season journey. It was a bittersweet ending for a show that had once been a trailblazer in the world of sitcoms. While Married with Children will forever be remembered for its audacious humor and controversial legacy, its decline and eventual cancellation served as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most groundbreaking shows must eventually face the harsh reality of changing tides and fickle audiences. But enough about Hollywood shows and the things that led to their decline. Some of the Hollywood actors themselves had it way worse as a result of their lifestyle and habits. Click this video to find out who some of the worst drinkers in Hollywood were.